නෝවේ වලින් අපිට දැනුම් දීලා තිබෙනවා අගෝස්තු 1 වෙනිදා නෝවේ
In your headlines tonight, expert consultations. President says forging ahead with the Umaoya project will be better for the country.
First at 9. This is Derana 24/7.
Secretary to the President, Governor of the Eastern Province Austin Fernando appointed to the post. Making headlines in sports, Malinga ruled out of next ODI. The fast bowler is diagnosed with viral influenza. Also in sports, an All Black sees red in 50 years. Touring Lions inflict narrow defeat on New Zealand. In international headlines, don't cross the red line. Chinese president warns Hong Kong against challenging central government. Good evening and a warm welcome to your primetime news at 9. I'm Indira Yamwatha and we begin with your local news tonight. The position of the Presidential Secretariat vacated by PB Abekon yesterday was filled with the appointment of the Governor of Eastern Province, Austin Fernando, to the post.
PB Abekon, who was earlier working as the Secretary to the President, handed over his letter of resignation yesterday. According to President's media, the new Secretary to the President, Austin Fernando, will be given the letter of appointment within a few days. Austin Fernando was educated at the Richmond College in Gaul and he is a graduate of the University of Peradeniya. He also worked as the District Secretary of Polonnaruwa as well as Secretary to a couple of ministries, among which is a stint as the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence from 2001 to 2003.
And on the controversies surrounding the Umaoya project, President Maithripala Sirisena emphasized that any decision, including a possible temporary suspension of the multipurpose development project, will be made following consultations with local and foreign specialists. He made the remarks during a meeting with concerned parties yesterday. During the talks, the head of state added that the government has taken measures to solve various issues pertaining to the project, such as providing compensation to those who are affected.
737 houses in the eastern valley of Central Hills are damaged as a result of Umaoya multipurpose development project. The risk of water springs in the area drying up was also highlighted by geologists. In this backdrop, residents in the area engaged in a protest march and worked off a Hartal campaign on Wednesday. It was concluded following a promise by the Governor's Secretary of the Uva province to organize a meeting between the President and the protesters. Accordingly, a special meeting regarding issues faced as a result of the project was chaired by President Maithripala Sirisena at the President's house yesterday.
All of us agree that there is a problem here. As a government, we should mainly focus on how to solve issues faced by the public, providing them compensation and looking into their well-being. I had discussions with Norway and Swiss ambassadors this week. Under Swiss ambassadors' instructions, we sent a German specialist to the project site. And then the government of Norway informed us that their specialist team will be arriving in Sri Lanka on the 1st of August. We would have to take further decisions on this project following observations made by those specialists. I believe that if we can continue with this project after solving all these issues, it would be better for the country since this project was initiated as an irrigation project to supply water for the Monragala district.
Speaking in Kakirawa today, Minister of Megapolis and Western Development Partly Champika Ranawaka accused the former government of making short-sighted decisions with regard to the Umaoya project.
It is because of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and his family's short-sighted decisions that the current government is facing so much problems. Take a look at the Umaoya project. The entire city of Bandaravela is sinking. Waterways from Umaoya project were to be directed to Mahali reservoirs. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa wanted to direct these waterways to the Hambantota district. He never paid attention to anybody who disputed this decision. And now, President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe have to take the blame for it.
Maithripala Sirisena ජනාධිපතිතුමාට අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයාට
Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa addressed criticism levelled against the previous government over the Umaoya development project at an event in Mathura today.
They're accusing Rajapaksas over the Umaoya project. They're talking as if they weren't in the former government. Who was the Environment Minister and the Irrigation Minister back then? If some project is going forward without any public protest, then they would talk as if though it was all their idea. Moragahakanda project is the prime example for it. But when they talk about Umaoya, they accuse us and the former government. This is a joke. I was given the responsibility by the people of this country to end the brutal war, which I succeeded in doing so. And then I laid the foundation for the development process of the nation. Now he's saying he can't pay off debt for these projects. If we were able to, then why can't he? He doesn't know proper management.
Moving on to other local news, parliamentarian M.A. Sumantiran reiterates the need for a federal system to be accepted in the proposed new constitution. Convening media at his residence today, the parliamentarian also called for the continuation of the present government in a bid to resolve the national issue.
We hope that there will be a solution for the national issue of Tamils in the proposed constitution. The new constitution should accept the federal system and implement it. Don't make the same mistakes as before by protesting. Public should not allow this. We built a new government to solve these political issues. Therefore, this government should be continued. Then only would we be able to continue our work, solve our issues and achieve our goals.
Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says providing private medical education will address the shortage of doctors in the country. He expressed these views addressing the ceremony organised to mark the unveiling of several new facilities at the Ratnapura General Hospital under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena.
New children's ward, blood bank, blood transfusion machine and X-ray unit of the General Hospital in Ratnapura were funded by donations of locals and US national Lewis Allen. Addressing the gathering, Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne expressed his views on private medical education in Sri Lanka.
We have a shortage of doctors. We need 200 doctors for 100,000 people, but we only have 60. We need 3 times the number of doctors. Only 17% of the students who sit for the advanced level examination get the opportunity to enter a medical faculty. 83% of these students are unable to gain entry. If anyone offers to provide medical education for at least 3% of that, should we ask them not to give that opportunity? Our currency flows to low-quality universities in foreign countries. Sri Lankan students go to universities in Bangladesh to study medicine. We should be ashamed.
Still on the Saitam issue, the Satyagraha organised by the Medical Faculty Students' Parents Association to push the government towards the closure of the South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine continued for a 4th day today adjacent to the Colombo Fort railway station. Amid the protest, a tense situation arose when a woman raised her voice in favour of Saitam.
The Satyagraha by the Medical Faculty Students' Parents Association against Saitam continued today, even though the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court had ordered the removal of their protest platform. A number of representatives from various political parties and civil organizations also joined in the protest.
We will not let Saitam be legalized. We urge the government to listen to the people's voice and nationalize Saitam. If not, we are even ready to sacrifice our lives to win this struggle. What more does the government want? Saitam is rejected by the Sri Lanka Medical Council, the government doctors, faculty heads, university lecturers and students. Students of Saitam should now protest, calling on the government to take over Saitam.
Meanwhile, a tense situation arose when a woman spoke in favor of Saitam during the protest.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Social Empowerment, Welfare and Kandyan Heritage, S.B. Dissanayake, says it is the Government Medical Officers Association which is responsible for the issues regarding the standard of students' clinical training at SITEM. The minister made these comments during an event at Talatuya yesterday.
The doctors claim that they have issues over the standard of clinical training. 3 passes is the admission requirement to a medical faculty in Sri Lankan universities. But at SITEM, applications without a minimum of 3 passes with 2 credits won't even be considered. If there is a lack of clinical training, the GMOA is responsible. They object when the students come for clinical training and then they say the students lack training. The Medical Council can work against such doctors who refuse to give training at government hospitals. The Medical Council and the GMOA are totally responsible if the SITEM students lack clinical training.
Welcome back. Public concern over the dengue epidemic intensified today with a student of the University of Moratuwa losing her life to the virus this morning. As a result, the administration of the University of Moratuwa decided to suspend academic activities for a period of 2 weeks.
According to data released by the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine, 215 deaths and 71,298 dengue patients have been reported within the last 6 months. 27-year-old Chetani Abekon was a third-year student of the Faculty of Information Technology at the University of Moratuwa. She passed away at the Angoda Infectious Disease Hospital while receiving treatment. Meanwhile, a silent protest was worked off adjacent to the university in protest of the incident.
A month ago, we provided the administration with statistics of 6 students and requested the university take action. The administration of the University of Moratuwa, however, waited till this death to take action.
The university administration today decided to suspend academic activities for 2 weeks. Therefore, university hostels were also vacated.
Nearly 85 students have been hospitalized. Authorities should take responsibility for this.
I'm staying at the hostel. There were few students who had fever.
An incident like this has to occur for the authorities to take action. We're disappointed in the administration.
And Deputy Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva states that public representatives should intervene in the needs of the country and its people. The Deputy Minister made these remarks during an inspection tour of a canal cleaning project in Derana in Pittakotte this morning.
Cleaning of a canal in the Derana area commenced today under the instructions of Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva. During his inspection tour in the area, the Deputy Minister also responded to questions raised by journalists.
I've been looking for the Municipal Council Commissioner for a week. When I wanted to speak to her, they said that she's in Russia for a week. We could not contact the acting commissioner for 4 days. It's no use talking about. I am so frustrated about the commissioner and the rest of the corrupt officials. I will take action against them in the proper way. As a parliamentarian, it's not up to me to clean canals and garbage. But having said that, as a public representative, it is my duty to do so.
It is time now to take a look at a few other stories making news tonight from across Sri Lanka.
Locals of Muthurajavala protested against dumping garbage in the area under their objection for a 4th consecutive day. A tense situation arose when the police intervened to bring the situation under control. The All Island Egg Producers Association engaged in a protest in the Hettipola town today against the decision of the government to produce eggs using the battery cage system. The protesters accused the government that battery cage system negatively affects small and medium-scale egg production in the country. The faculties of Agriculture and Engineering of Kilinochchi campus at the University of Jaffna were declared open by the Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Taranjit Singh Sandhu, yesterday. The project was funded by the Government of India with a grant of 600 million rupees.
In a backdrop where Sri Lanka's construction industry is booming, Minister of Skills Development and Vocational Training Chandima Virakudi says that Sri Lanka's job-seeking graduates need a conceptual change. He expressed these views during the 6th World Construction Symposium in Colombo yesterday.
The symposium was organized by the Ceylon Institute of Builders and Building Economics Management and Research Unit of the University of Colombo. It was themed What's New and What's Next in the Built Environment Sustainability Agenda. Local and foreign delegates participated in the symposium, which also saw the launch of the quarterly magazine Sri Lanka Construction Today.
As I see, whether you are an engineer or a carpenter, you're a part of building profession. In this country, the ratio of engineers to technical staff should be 1:4, but we have more engineers and less technical staff. And when you go further down, we have to rely on Indian laborers from Myanmar, from Bangladesh. But people take to streets demanding for jobs, not just ordinary people, the graduates. Politicians protest against entering into agreements with India, but the Indian laborers are here. Our workforce is just at home. Carpenter or even an ordinary laborer is paid about 60 to 70,000 presently in an industry. Yesterday, a few graduates were appointed by one of the authorities under my ministry. I wanted to know what the salary was. It was only 40,000 rupees. But there's great reluctance. This issue has to be addressed in this country. Professionalism has to be brought in.
In international business news, India has replaced its numerous federal and state taxes with a goods and services tax designed to unify the country into a single market. The overhaul, described as the single most important taxation reform in the last 70 years, was carried out at a special midnight session of Parliament.
India says introducing GST will cut red tape and increase tax revenues, fueling economic growth.
एक ऐसी व्यवस्था है जो ज्यादा सरल है, ज्यादा पारदर्शी है, एक ऐसी व्यवस्था है जो ईमानदारी को अवसर देती है.
Businesses in the country, however, have been asking for more time to implement the changes.
There are bound to be some teething troubles and difficulties in the initial stage. We will have to solve these with understanding and speed to ensure that it does not impact the growth momentum of the economy.
In developments from the crisis in Qatar, at least 6 British banks say they have fully or partially stopped dealing in Qatari riyals as the Gulf crisis has disrupted overseas trading of Qatar's currency. Individual customers at banks including Barclays, RBS, Lloyds Banking Group and Tesco Bank cannot currently buy or sell the currency. Spokesperson for some of the banks said that third-party suppliers which carry out their foreign exchange services have stopped providing the Qatari riyal. Qatar's central bank says it will guarantee all transactions for customers inside and outside the country, adding that all banks and foreign exchange companies are committed to trading riyals as usual. Qatar has been isolated by its Arab neighbors who accuse it of backing terrorism. In your top sports story, fast bowler Lasith Malinga is ruled out of the second ODI against Zimbabwe as he is diagnosed with viral influenza. A medical assessment has recommended the player be rested for 48 hours. Malinga is currently 5 wickets short of 300 wickets in one-day internationals and is on the verge of becoming the fourth Sri Lankan bowler after Muthaiya Muralitharan, Chaminda Vaas and Sanath Jayasuriya to achieve the milestone. In its statement, Sri Lanka Cricket also mentioned that spinner Lakshan Sandakan missed the first ODI due to being diagnosed with the same viral flu. And following Sri Lanka's shock defeat in the hands of perceived minnows Zimbabwe in goal yesterday, several politicians expressed various views regarding the slump in the national cricket team's performance.
There is a massive issue concerning the team, the captains, the administration and the coaches. The management should appoint experts in the field and get the work done by them. It is not good to interfere too much. We presented a report on corruption. I handed it over to Minister Dasiri Jayasekara, but there has been no investigation yet. When doing something, it must be done with clean hands, otherwise it will not succeed. Players don't need to engage in administration. All they have to do is go out and play the game, not raise their voices. Today's issue is that players are talking and the administration is playing cricket. One should be aware of what fitness means in cricket. If we are to comply with these rules, cricketers such as Dulip Mendis and I would not have been able to play due to our fitness outlook. Cricket fitness and normal fitness are different. I don't think anyone in this administration knows what cricket fitness is. We will develop individuals with better knowledge on this and I will help, but I am not willing to work with a gambling administration. What has the sports minister done after coming forward to improve the fitness of cricketers? Cricket was the pride of Sri Lanka. What has happened now? Minister Dasiri Jayasekara must accept responsibility for the team's defeat. Following his verbal attack on Lasith Malinga, the entire team's morale has broken down.
And in rugby, the touring Lions today pulled off one of their great wins to steal a thriller against New Zealand and set up a series decider in Auckland in a week's time as they edged past the All Blacks 24-21.
Now Watson looking to get away from Maholo.
When Sonny Bill Williams was red-carded for a shoulder charge on Anthony Watson, the first All Blacks sending off in 50 years, the Lions sensed a wonderful opportunity for a historic upset in Wellington. The two sides were locked on 9 points each, with Bowden Barrett and Owen Farrell cancelling each other out with 3 penalties apiece. Barrett kicked his side into a 9-point lead, only for Talupe Filatao to crash over in the right corner. Barrett's 7th penalty gave the home side a little daylight, but Conor Murray's try and Farrell's conversion then levelled it up again at 21-21. And with 4 minutes to go, Charlie Formuina was penalised for taking the charging Kylie Snickler out in the air, and Farrell stroked over the critical 3 points to seal a famous win.
Touchline, bunch it out. Lions win, series still alive.
Welcome back. Chinese President Xi Jinping warns that Beijing will not tolerate any challenge to its authority as Hong Kong marked 20 years of Chinese rule today. President Xi made the remark following the swearing-in of the region's newly elected chief executive, Carrie Lam.
Hong Kong marked 20 years of Chinese rule today with a number of lavish events held under heightened police security, amid fears that Beijing is increasingly intervening in the affairs and the autonomy of the region. Hong Kong's first female leader, Carrie Lam, was sworn in as chief executive by Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Any attempt to endanger China's sovereignty and security, challenge the power of the central government, or use Hong Kong to carry out infiltration and sabotage against the mainland is an act that crosses the red line and is absolutely impermissible.
Meanwhile, clashes erupted between pro-democracy protesters and police, and several arrests were made.
US President Donald Trump had stern words for North Korea, reiterating that the nuclear and ballistic missile programs of the isolated country require a determined response. Trump made the remark yesterday in Washington, D.C. at a joint media briefing with his visiting South Korean counterpart, Moon Jae-in.
The era of strategic patience with the North Korean regime has failed. We are working closely with South Korea and Japan, as well as partners around the world, on a range of measures to protect our allies and our own citizens from this menace known as North Korea.
The threats and provocations by North Korea will be met with a stern response. To this end, our two leaders will employ both sanctions and dialogue in a phased and comprehensive approach. National security leaves no room for compromises.
French far-right leader Marine Le Pen has been placed under formal investigation over the alleged misuse of European Union funds. The European Parliament suspects that about €5 million went to assistance of Le Pen's National Front, who were not working for members of the European Parliament, but were actually engaged in party work in France. The National Front has denied the allegations, and Le Pen says the case is politically motivated. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of your primetime news at 9. But before we go, we'd like to take you to Mongolia, where 4 wild Przewalski's horses born in captivity in the Czech Republic were released into their ancestral grasslands. Driven to extinction in their homeland in the 1960s, the wild horses were saved only by breeding in captivity. We leave you with that. Have a pleasant evening and stay safe. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana, 24/7.